All right, today we're gonna replace this daytime running light on this 2011 Mercedes E350. I crawled underneath, there's a couple of plates, one of which it looks like we're gonna have to take off. And I think the easiest way to do it is gonna be to pull this tire off and pop out the plates from underneath. So to do that, I'm gonna jack it up, use my floor jack. You can use the one that's in the trunk as well. And these little adapters that pop in, so I can use my floor jack with this Mercedes makes it really easy. But I'm gonna jack it up and then I'm gonna take this wheel off and we'll take a look at what's underneath. So once you get it jacked up and take the wheel off, the lugs on those wheels, by the way, are 17 millimeters if you need to take it off. I think this panel here needs to come off, and then we should be able to get to that. This will come off pretty easy. It has these little, I don't know what you call them, they're like little pop rivets. You take a screwdriver, you can pop the centerpiece of this out like such, and as long as you carefully pull these out from here, you should be able to reuse these. They will slide back in once you pop them all the way out like that. When you go to put them back in, just push them in, push that centerpiece in, and you should be good to go. There's about 3 or 4 of these on here. I'm gonna go ahead and take the rest of those off. So there's also 2 10mm bolts that we'll have to pull off. One's here in the back, the other one is up top. And then underneath the car, there was 3 8mm bolts that screw up from the bottom that also hold this piece in. So a couple of notes after digging in here. That bolt needs to come out. The top one up there can stay in. What will happen once you get those little pop rivets out is this piece will become loose, and it's loose enough for you to get up under here, underneath the car, and get to those lights. The light I want to get to is right up here, but I think I'm going to have to take this whole front plate off. There's a handful of these little 8mm screws. We're going to take those out. You can see here, this one, it overlaps with the back plate, which if you're changing the oil is the one that needs to come off. We're going to leave that hanging for now and see if we can get to the lights. So what I've done is just bent back this plastic a little bit here so that we can see up into the lights. That one right there on the right is the one on this model that's out. It's the right daytime running light. So what it looks like I have to do is pop that wire off and take a little look and see how that actually comes out of there. So I pulled the whole light assembly out from the front. You see the hole there. All I had to do is remove this bottom bolt here. Actually has a plastic head, so be careful. And then you can take this clamp off. If I can get close enough here. There's a little button right here. You just push and this whole housing will come off. So to actually get this metal piece off, I had to come over to the bench. You can see here, these little metal tabs keep it from popping up. I took my little hook, got in there on each of them, bent them slightly. Then this piece will now come out. Then that allows the light to slide right on out as well. So some things I learned. This is not really supposed to be changed, but here's the replacement for it if you guys need one. This particular Sylvania bulb here will go back in. So I'm going to put this back in, put this piece together, and get it all put back. Just for notes, I did find out the complete housing with the bulb in it retails for right at $50. This particular bulb here is just below $30, or at least it was at my local auto parts store. So something to keep in mind. It might be easier just to replace the whole housing. So this was the one bolt that I took out. In order for this whole housing to come out, I just slid it back in, clipped the wire on, and now I'm going to tighten this bolt. One thing to note, this top piece here is plastic. Mine's broken. I didn't bother to fix it. If I have to do this again, I'm just going to replace this whole housing. But once I get this tightened on, then the guard that I pushed back here around the wheel well, I'm going to put that back up in and put the rest of those bolts in. So I've got the wheel well back on, put in this little nut right here. Now I got to go back and do these little pop guys. Just reverse kind of how you took them out. Find the hole. You get them started in there. Make sure you push them in all the way, and then just push the centerpiece in, and you're done. And I'll do that for this bottom one here. Then I'll move down back underneath the car here to do a couple of 8mm screws that need to go in to hold all this back together. So underneath, I've got 3 of these little screws or bolts put back in. One goes here, another one goes here, and one goes right here. All right, now we're gonna put the wheel back on. What I do to make it much easier to pull off next time is to use some anti-seize compound, just a little bit right around here. Don't get it on the rotor. And then on each of your lug nuts, on the side of them, just put a little bit around here. Doesn't take much, but it'll make the tires much easier to get off next time. One other quick tidbit why I've got this wheel off. This is the passenger side. This wire here is your sensor for your brakes. When I replaced these not too long ago, this side was much more worn than the other. I don't know if they were replaced at the same time previously or not, but definitely something to check. So you can see I've got my wheel back on. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around and make sure these are decently tight before I drop it. One thing to get in the habit of is to do these in a star pattern. What I mean by that, tighten this nut, then go here, over here, up here, down here. That'll help keep everything even, especially as far as wear on those rotors go. And then we're gonna torque them down. I've got my torque wrench. We'll torque them down to 96 foot-pounds that the calls for, and we'll be good to go. We'll torque them once it's lowered on the ground. That way the tire doesn't move. And we're all finished with this job. Thanks for watching.